The brand new release of the House of by Kilian, Old Fashioned fragrance review coming right up. Stay tuned after this intro. What is going on, guys, and welcome again to another video. I have a great release for you guys today. It's officially unreleased yet, but pretty much a lot of people have it already online, readily available. So in case if you just want to snatch yourself a bottle before it get released, actually you can do that. But if you don't, that's okay too. You can always wait for a couple more weeks or so to actually go sniff it at the department store. And that is what I actually recommend, because that's what I actually recommend to see if you like it or not. You need to smell the fragrance before you actually buy it. Blind buys not recommended over here. But let's just get back to this new release from by Kilian, Old Fashioned. And if anything reminds you of Old Fashioned, it reminds me of whiskey. And yes, it does smell like aged whiskey, guys, if you are familiar with that smell. It's like aged whiskey in your face. Kind of like smelling like single malt whiskey in a way. And I said single malt for a reason. And the reason is just because this is a re-release of the infamous single malt by Kilian that unfortunately got discontinued a couple years back. I was cherishing my refill bottle for the longest time. Look how much I've worn of it. I've had a lot of fun wearing single malt back in the day. Literally, that was my upper tier going out classy scent for me personally. And when I've heard that single malt already got discontinued, I was crushed from the soul. I was really hurt by Kilian. Probably I didn't really show it, but I was. And the fact that they did release this fragrance again from their liqueur collection, which is all the boozy fragrances they have, and they have it like glass bottles like this. This is Angel Share. I'm just showing you an example. I was really curious to smell Old Fashioned and actually see if it's that close to single malt or it's taken totally a different route. To be honest here, and that's probably a selfish of me, just to wishing that Old Fashioned was taken a different route, just for me to actually see something different or a little different than single malt. For me to also to repurchase, because I honestly already have this one. But unfortunately for me, unfortunately for you guys who hasn't smelled or doesn't own single malt yet or wanted to smell it or purchase a bottle, Old Fashioned is gonna be readily available soon, and it's gonna be even a little cheaper than the original packaging of single malt. When it comes to the differences between these two smells, these two scents smells pretty much almost identical. There's a minor differences in terms of the smell and the performance, but they're very minor. In terms of the smell, single malt got a very big prominent plum note. Opposed to Old Fashioned that they replaced the plum note with a Divana note, which is a very close smelling note to plum note. It smells more like dried fruit, so it's less sweetened than the plum. It's a little bit on the nuttier side, or like the drier side in a way. This fragrance in general is on the drier side because of the wheat note. Wheat in general comes across pretty dry on the nose, and I just love it for that. I truly do enjoy the wheat or the hay note in fragrances. I think they just add something different to the olfactory overall smell. And that is the main difference, honestly, especially in the opening. So you'll find a big, prominent plum note on single malt. That's just gonna make it a little bit sweeter. Also, it's gonna make the overall smelling of this scent less boozy. Just the whiskey note here is actually fighting over who's the star of the show here with the plum note. Opposed to Old Fashioned, it's definitely boozier, so you'll smell the booze through and through. That aged single malt whiskey, it's popping out. Definitely not sweet. Even the oak barrel smell that they both attain, it's more prominent on Old Fashioned. Just because again you can smell it more because of that non-existing plum note. Definitely a little bit drier too, just because also the wheat note here is more prominent on Old Fashioned. So the overall smell compared to the original single malt is a much boozier, much drier version of single malt. Less sweet also. When this fragrance dries down, it just becomes way more balsamic and sticky. This fragrance has been always sticky, but it just gets stickier with time. It's just that Styrax Tolu Balsam just gives it a little bit of an ambery touch, a little bit of a sticky sweetness, but not overly sweet. It is definitely sticky balsamic sweetness. It is actually pretty good, and by that time when this fragrance dries down, it just becomes almost identical to the original single malt. Just because at that time the whiskey barrel note is still always available, but it's just much sweetened with the Styrax and the Tolu balsam with a faded plum note. So I would say the dry down of this fragrance is almost up to like 95% identical. It is almost the same, and the only reason to tell the difference is if you smell them side by side, which I had the advantage of, so that's why I could really tell the difference. But for other people out there that they already smelled like single malt back in the day, they would say this is actually single malt, which is again a good thing for you guys who hasn't smelled single malt yet or always wanted to purchase a bottle. When it comes to the performance, I feel like Old Fashioned it just contains more alcohol than single malt. And when I say alcohol, I mean like perfumers alcohol. So it's less concentrated than single malt. And because of that, when you actually spray on Old Fashioned, it actually pushes out far. It's pretty strong when you first spray it on. This one is pretty strong too, but it's just got a medium bubble around you. Old Fashioned, on the other hand, really pushes out. And when I try the two side by side, I find single malt to be a little bit shiny, a little bit sticky. But on the other hand, Old Fashioned, you can't detect it. It's a little bit waterier, not as oily. So in terms of the concentration, I think single malt is more concentrated. It could be like eau de parfum extrait, kind of, opposed to Old Fashioned that it could be like an eau de parfum. Well, they both say eau de parfum on them, but I'm just telling you of my experience. In terms of the longevity, they both actually last pretty long time. Old Fashioned lasted on me like 8+ hours easily. It just gets faint with time. It's not as sticky, it's not as concentrated as single malt. Opposed to single malt that lasts on me literally like 24+ hours. So in terms of the longevity, single malt wins. But it doesn't mean that Old Fashioned it's a weak performer. Not at all. It's a great performing scent. I'm telling you, it's gonna last on you 8+ hours with a great projection, especially for the first hour or so. Would I recommend you guys to blind buy this? And no, absolutely not. And the reason why I've been having single malt, which is the original of Old Fashioned, for multiple years now. I've been having this bottle ever since it came out long time ago. And I've worn it quite a bit. Look at the bottle. The likability factor, it's a hit or miss. A lot of people would love it on you. It's just gonna smell definitely more sophisticated, very classy. But for a lot of other people, they'll think you've been probably just drinking way too much. So it could smell like you are drunk or you had a little bit of whiskey on you. That's why I'm telling you, don't blind buy Old Fashioned at all because it's an acquired taste. It's very risky. And that is probably why they discontinued it at the first place. It just didn't sell well. Do I love it? Absolutely. If you are a frag head or if you are a fragrance enthusiast, this is gonna be a gem for you. But still not for everybody. Let me know in the comment section down below. Have you smelled Old Fashioned yet? Have you smelled single malt before? And what do you think of what I just told you? Let me know in the comment section. I'm curious. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and click that notification bell right next to it. And see you guys next time. Peace.